Chapter 2, Production Possibility Frontiers. In this video, we're going to look at a potential trade partner for the United States. Before we get started, let's talk a little bit about trade. Most countries in the world have trade partners with at least a couple of countries. The United States is no different. In fact, we have a lot of trade relationships with many countries around the world. So before we get started, I want you to get out your practice problem paper, and I want you to take a look at all of the tags that you have on the clothing that you're wearing. So go ahead and pause the video, look to see where the clothes that you're wearing are made. Pick 5 or 6 items, maybe ones that are around your desk area right now, and find out where they're made and write down the countries on your practice problem paper. Now, for most of you, if you looked at the items around you and the items that you're wearing, most of them are not made in the United States. The US has so many trade partners that we don't even realize that when we go to the store and we buy, whether it's food or clothing or other items, that we are buying something that has been imported into the United States from somewhere else. And that is because trade partners exist and the United States is heavily involved with trade partners around the world. So for our example, we're going to continue on with our wheat and computers example. And our next example is a potential trade partner. And I've picked the country of Japan. We're going to see how much wheat and computers Japan can make. And then we're later going to determine if the US and Japan should trade with one another. We're going to label our Japanese PPF graph in the same way that we did the United States. We're going to measure it in labor hours. And we're going to see how much goods both the US and Japan can produce and consume. And of course, before we decide to trade with a country, we want to see if it's better off if we just make the products ourselves. So, should we choose to be self sufficient and not trade? Or would a trade be advantageous to both parties? So remember, a trade is not going to occur unless both parties feel like they're getting something more out of the deal than what they could do on their own. So let's see if we can get there with our trade partner. So on your practice problem paper, I want you to do question number 2. You're going to draw Japan's PPF. In this particular question, Japan has now 30,000 of labor hours available per month. This is a little less than the US. And in Japan, to produce one computer, it requires 125 hours of labor. And to produce a ton of wheat makes or requires 25 hours of labor. So go ahead and draw your graph, pause the video, and come back when you're done. All right, so you should have something like this for your Japan PPF. Remember, the question told you to put wheat on the vertical axis, and if Japan used all of their labor hours to make wheat only, they could make a maximum of 1,200 tons of wheat or 240 computers. The line represents possible combinations that Japan could make with their 30,000 labor hours.